now, look what the storm's gone and washed up on my step. Get yourself inside. Go on, never mind the wet. This floor has seen far worse than what you're dripping on it. There, put your shoulder to that door for me. Good. The night's out there now, and you're in here, and that's the whole and only trick a door has ever known. You found the road back then. I had a notion you might, on an evening like this. Weather of this sort has a way of turning a person toward the nearest warm window. Go on through, you know the path. Past the bar, duck the low beam, and the fire's burning right where you left it. Your chair, too. Nobody's had the heart to claim it. Let me just set this down. I was seeing to the last of the cups when your foot found the step outside. I'd know that little pause anywhere. The breath a body takes before it decides to knock. You've no need to pause, you. This door knows your hand. Take the blanket off the arm there. Wool from the same hill as ever. Honest and a touch scratchy, and worth the both once it's warmed to you. Wrap up now. And this, careful, it's hot. Milk with the honey stirred all the way through, and a bruised leaf of mint gone soft on the top. It'll not keep you awake. It's only meant to give your hands a kind thing to hold. Hear how the rain's dug itself in? That slow, patient sort. The kind that's quit pretending it's going anywhere. Let it stay. There's not one of us fool enough to go out in that. That little brass bell above the door, the one that gave you its small hello as you stepped through. I've never once told you how it came to hang there, have I? There's 40 years of open sea caught in that bell. More than 40. But there I go, handing you the last page before the first, like some old fool who's forgotten which way a story runs. Let me lay it down proper, right from the start of it. Settle back. Let your eyes fall closed if they've a mind to. The tale carries just as well in the dark. It was near this same time last year. A man let himself in out of a night much like this one. Gray through the beard, gray to the hem of his coat, and wetter than the weather had any right to leave a man. A sailor to the bone, you could see it plain. It was in the roll of his walk, and in the way his eye kept drifting to the black of the window, as though the sky were a thing he still answered to. 3 nights he kept that window seat, and on the third, with the rain gone soft and the fire burned low, he handed me the gentlest, oddest thing that ever befell him in all his 40 years afloat. He told it slow, the way I mean to tell it to you, and somewhere near the end of it, well, you'll come to that yourself. So, here is what the old sailor gave me, as near word for word as I can manage. The night the sea fell asleep. He was young then, he told me. Younger than you, maybe. 16, 17. The age when a boy is all elbows and appetite and thinks the world is a door standing open just for him. He'd signed on to a merchant ship called the Kestrel. A good, honest ship, he said, broad in the belly, slow but sure, the kind that never won a race and never lost a cargo. She was loading at first light, bolts of wool packed tight and smelling of the sheep still, clay jars of honey sealed with wax, barrels of salted fish, and one small barrel of good apples for the crew, which the boy had his eye on already. And the boy, well, the boy was in the way. That's the honest truth of it. A new hand on his first real voyage is mostly in the way, and he knew it, and he tried so hard not to be that he tripped over a coil of rope and sat down hard in front of the whole crew. Nobody laughed. That was the first kind thing the sea did for him. It gave him a crew that didn't laugh. An old bosun reached down a hand like a bundle of ship's rope and set the boy on his feet and said, "Careful, lad. The rope was here before you and it'll be here after. Step around what's older than you." And the boy never forgot it. They cast off on the morning tide. Oh, he loved it. He told me his heart near came up his throat when the sails caught and the whole ship leaned and started to move, alive under his feet, the water hissing away down her sides. The town got small behind them. The church tower went from a thing you could stand under to a thing you could hide behind your thumb. And then it was gone, and there was only the green land sliding by on the one hand, and on the other, the open sea, going out and out to a gray line that was the edge of everything he knew. He said he stood at the rail till the land was gone and the cook had to call him twice for supper. He said he was never so happy and never so small, both at once. And he didn't yet know that those two feelings are really the same feeling, and that the sea would spend the next 40 years teaching him so. The first weeks were easy sailing. The bosun took the boy in hand, showed him the ropes, and I mean that as the true thing it is and not the saying it's become. Which line raises what, which knot holds and which knot slips when you want it to slip. How to coil a rope so it runs clean and never fouls. How to be, little by little, less in the way. And at night, this is the part the boy remembered best, 40 years on. At night, the bosun would sit with his back against a barrel and take out a little tin whistle, worn bright from handling, and play. Not loud, just soft old tunes that wet out over the black water and got lost. The boy would lie on the warm deck and look up at more stars than he had names for, and listen, and feel the whole ship rock him like a hand. He said if the voyage had ended there, he'd have counted it the best of his life. But it didn't end there, because on the 18th day, the wind simply stopped. Not a storm, understand that. There was no danger in it, not at first. No black sky, no great waves, nothing to fear. It was the opposite of all that. One afternoon, the breeze that had carried them for 18 days just eased and softened, and by evening it was gone altogether, as if the sky had breathed out and forgotten to breathe in again. The sails hung down like washing on a still day. The ropes stopped their creaking, and the sea, the boy said he'd never forget it, the sea went flat. Flat as a floor, flat as the top of the milk in your cup there. Not a ripple, not a wrinkle, out to every edge of the world. The ship sat in the middle of it and did not move, and the water held her like a leaf held on the top of a pond. The old sailors have a word for it. Becalmed. To be becalmed. It sounds like a curse when they say it, and for many a ship it was. But for the boy on the Kestrel, well,
That was the beginning of the 9 strangest, softest days of his whole long life. And I'll tell you every one of them. But your cup's near empty, and the fire wants a log, and there's no hurry at all out here on a flat sea. So let me tend the fire, and then we'll drift a while, you and I, on the night the sea fell asleep.
Now, where were we? The wind had gone, and the kestrel sat still on a sea gone flat as a floor, and the boy was about to learn what 9 quiet days can do to a man. The first morning of it, the crew did not rest easy. You have to understand what a becalming meant to sailors in those days. No wind meant no way home. It meant the water barrels going down and down while the ship sat where it sat. Grown men who feared nothing in a gale would go quiet in a calm, because a storm at least you could fight, and a calm you could only wait out. So that first morning there was a tightness in them. They went up the masts and looked for wind they could not find. They wetted a finger and held it up and felt nothing. They spoke low, but the old bosun, the boy watched him. The old bosun did none of that. He sat himself down against a barrel in the shade of the slack sail, and he took out his little tin whistle, and he cleaned it slow with a rag, and he did not once look at the sky. And after a while, the boy came and sat near him, the way a young thing will come and sit near a calm one. And he asked him. He asked, "Aren't you worried?" And the bosun said a thing the boy kept his whole life. He said, "Lad, a young sailor thinks the whole of the craft is in the working of the ship, the hauling and the climbing and the knowing of the ropes. And that is a part of it. But the old part, the part that keeps you alive to be old, that is the knowing of when to work and when to rest. The sea works, and then the sea rests. And a wise sailor does not fight the sea when it is resting. He rests with it. There will be wind enough. There is always wind enough in the end. Sit down. Let the ship hold you. This is not a thing being done to you. This is a gift, if you have the sense to take it." And slowly, over that first day and the next, the boy watched the tightness go out of the crew, one man at a time, like knots coming loose. Because nothing happened, and then more nothing happened. And there is only so long a body can stay braced for a blow that does not come. By the third day, the kestrel had stopped being a ship becalmed and had become something else, something the boy had no word for then. A little floating village on a mirror, a held breath that had decided, after all, to simply breathe. I will tell you about the bread, because the boy told me about the bread 40 years on, with his eyes gone soft. At sea in those days, you did not eat bread. You ate ship's biscuit, which is a hard, dry thing baked to last for months, and it does last, and it will keep a man alive, and there is not one sailor in 1,000 who would call it good. But bread, real bread, warm bread, that needs time. It needs the dough to be made and to be left to rise, slow in the warm, and you cannot do that on a ship that is pitching and rolling, for the fire is a danger, and the dough will not sit still. But a ship becalmed does not pitch, and it does not roll. A ship becalmed is as steady as this floor. So on the fourth day, the cook, a big, quiet man with burned forearms, the cook looked around at the flat sea and the flat days, and he made bread. The boy watched him do it. He watched him mix the flour and the water and the little crock of yeast he kept like treasure. He watched him work the dough with the heels of his hands and cover it with a cloth and set it in the warm by the galley fire to rise. And the whole ship, that whole long afternoon, filled slow with the smell of it, rising bread. There is no smell on this earth like it. It got into every corner of the ship, down into the hold, up into the rigging, and men who had been dozing lifted their heads like dogs. And when it came out of the oven, brown and steaming and torn open with the fingers because no one would wait for a knife, the boy said he ate a piece of warm bread standing on the deck of a becalmed ship in the middle of the whole wide ocean, with butter melting into it. And he had never in his life tasted anything so good, and he never would again. He said a man does not know how much of happiness is just warm bread and a steady floor until the sea gives him both at once, out where he had no right to expect either. Have a little more of your milk. It has gone the perfect warmth now, I think. That is the way of it. You wait, and the thing comes right on its own. The nights were the wonder, though. The nights were where the strangeness of it lived. The first thing was the water. On the second night, the boy was leaning at the rail, doing nothing, which was the great occupation of those days, and he saw the sea beneath the ship glowing. A faint green light, cold and soft, moving in the black water. He thought his eyes were playing him at first, but then a fish went by below the surface, and it drew a line of green fire behind it, and then another, and the boy called out, and the old sailors only smiled, because they had seen it before. It is a small living thing in the water, so small you cannot see the one of it, only the millions, and when the water is stirred, it lights. The boy leaned over and trailed his hand in the still sea, and his own fingers came up dripping cold green light, and he laughed out loud in the dark like a child, 40 years before he told it to me, and I could hear the boy still in the old man's voice when he did. And then, on the fourth night, the whales. He was lying on the deck. The deck was still warm from the sun of the day, the boards holding the heat the way stones hold it, and he had his back flat against it, looking up. And he felt it before he heard it, a humming, a deep, deep humming that came up through the boards and into his own chest, so low it was more a feeling than a sound. He pressed his ear flat to the warm wood, and it was whales. Somewhere down in the dark, below the still ship, whales were singing to one another. Those long, low calls that go for miles through the deep water, and the whole hull of the kestrel was carrying the song up to him like the belly of a great instrument. He lay there half the night with his ear to the deck, he said, and let the whales sing him nearly to sleep. And he thought, no one at home will ever believe me. And no one ever did, except a boy grows into a man, and the man grows old. And one rainy night he finds an inn, and an innkeeper who will believe anything.
and he tells it at last. But the greatest thing, the thing he said he would carry to whatever comes after this, was the stars. You must picture the sea he was on, flat, not a ripple, flatter than a pond, because a pond has a breeze to trouble it, and this had none. A black mirror laid down across the whole world from edge to edge. And above it, on those clear nights, the stars. More stars than you have ever seen from land, because out there is no lamp of any town to dim them, only the deep and the dark, and the whole burning wheel of them from horizon to horizon. And the flat black sea took them all and gave them back. Every star doubled, the sky above full of stars, and the sea below full of stars. And between the two, a thin, dark line that was the edge of the world, and the little ship sitting on that line. The boy said that on the stillest of those nights, if he stood at the very center of the deck and let his eyes go soft, he could not tell the sky from the sea. Up and down came a part in his head. The ship was not floating on the water. The ship was hanging in the middle of all the stars, in the very middle of everything, held there, gentle, turning so slow, going nowhere, and needing to go nowhere. He said it was the most alone a person could be, and the least lonely, both in the one moment. He said he understood something out there that he could never quite say again in words, but it was something like this, that the world is very large, and a person is very small, and that this is not a sad thing, that it is, in fact, the kindest thing there is, to be a small, warm speck, held in a great, dark calm, with no need to do anything at all but be held. And the bosun would play his whistle, soft old tunes, out over the doubled stars, and the boy would lie in the middle of the sky and listen. And that was the fifth night ending, and the boy thought the voyage could go on like this forever, and he would not have minded. But on the fifth night, the lookout saw the other ship.
It was the boy himself who was nearest when the lookout called down. Not a loud call. Nothing was loud on that sea. Just a word, come quiet over the still air. Ship. And then, when no one moved, because a ship should have been good news, the lookout said it again, slower. A ship. There. And the boy looked where the man was pointing, out across the black mirror, and there she was. Understand, there was moon enough that night to see by, and out on the flat water, perhaps a mile off, sat another vessel, a tall ship like their own, but her sails were furled, tied up, put away, and not one light showed on her, not a lantern, not a candle, nothing. She sat on the still sea, as dark and quiet as a thing carved out of the night, and she made no sound, and no shape moved on her deck. A ship with her sails put away and her lights all cold, sitting becalmed a mile off in the middle of an empty ocean. Now, I want to tell you how the crew took this, because it is the tender part, and it is not the part you might expect. You might expect fear, a dark, silent ship on a black sea at night. There are 100 sailors' tales that begin just so,
and most of them end in ghosts and horror. And I will not pretend the men did not feel the cold touch of that on the back of the neck. They did. Sailors are the most superstitious folk alive, and every one of them, looking at that dark ship, thought of every drowned crew story he had ever heard. But here is the thing. It was the old boatswain who went to the rail and looked long, and did not speak for a while. And when the men began to mutter the old frightened words, he said quietly, "No, no. Whatever that is, it is not a thing to be afraid of." And they trusted him, because he was the calm one. And so the fear in them turned instead into a great and quiet wondering. And they agreed, all of them, that in the morning, in the good light, they would put the little boat over the side and row across and see. The boy hardly slept. He lay under the doubled stars and watched the dark shape of the far ship not move, and he could not tell if he was frightened or only more awake than he had ever been. In the gray of the morning they lowered the boat. The boatswain went, and two of the steady older men, and the boy, because the boy asked, and the boatswain looked at him a moment and then said, "Come then, learn this too." Rowing across that mirror was a thing the boy never forgot. The oars going in and coming out, and each dip leaving a little swirl of that green light even in the gray dawn. And the water so still that the ship they rowed toward stood perfectly upside down beneath itself, reflected whole, so that they seemed to be rowing across the sky toward two ships that met at the waterline. No one spoke. The rowlocks creaked. The far ship got larger and larger, and still nothing moved upon her. And then they were under her side, in her shadow, and they could read in the gray light the name painted on her bow, the Aurelia. And the old boatswain, who had not been afraid of a dark ship on a black sea, who had been the calm one through all of it, the old boatswain read that name, and he went very still. He put out one hand and laid it flat against the cold, wet planks of her hull, the way you would lay a hand on the flank of an animal to know if it still breathed. And he stayed like that a long moment. And the boy, watching his face, saw something come over it that he had no name for then, and knew the name of only many years later. It was the look of a man meeting, on the far side of his whole life, a thing he had long ago made himself stop hoping for. They climbed aboard. And here, friend, is the part I have been rowing toward all this while. Here is the gift the old sailor gave me on the third night by this same fire. There were no ghosts on the Aurelia. There was nothing fearful on her at all. What there was worse and better than any ghost. What there was a ship asleep.
Everything was in its place. That was the wrong of it, and the wonder of it. The ropes were coiled and hung. The deck was scrubbed. Down in the cabin, the captain's log lay open on the table with a pen beside it, and a line of writing that stopped in the middle of a word, as though the man had been called away a moment and meant to come straight back. There were teacups in a rack, and they were clean. There was a coat on a hook, swaying the barest bit with the roll that was not there. There was a child's carved wooden horse on a bunk that some sailor had been making for someone at home. Everything kept, everything quiet, everything waiting, patient as furniture for a crew that had stepped out of the world 30 years before and never stepped back. For she had been lost 30 years. The bosun told them, standing in that still cabin with his hat in his hands. He knew her. Of course he knew her. The Aurelia had been his first ship. He had signed on to her as a boy of 16, the very age of the boy standing beside him now. And on his first long voyage, she had sailed into a fog off a coast none of them knew, and something had happened in that fog that he could never after put in order in his mind. And when it cleared, he was alone in the water, holding to a spar, and the Aurelia was gone. And every soul aboard her was gone, and only he was pulled from the sea alive. The only one. He had been 30 years a sailor since, and grown from a boy to the old calm man he was, and in all that time he had half believed he had dreamed her, that no such ship had ever been, that the grief he carried was for people who were only smoke. And here she was, kept whole, held on the flat water by some long kindness of the sea, as though the ocean had taken her and set her down gentle somewhere out of the weather and kept her safe, and waited 30 years to give her back to the one man left who loved her, on the one still night their two paths could cross. The boy said the old bosun did not weep, quite. He stood in the cabin of his first ship, an old man, and he touched the things very softly, one at a time. The teacups, the coat, the little wooden horse, and he was quiet a long time. And then he did two things. He took the captain's log, closed it gentle, and put it under his arm, because in that book were the names of every man who had sailed on her, and 30 years of families ashore had never known what became of their fathers and their sons, and now, at last, someone could tell them. Now, at last, they could stop watching the road. And then he went to the small brass bell that hung by the wheel, the ship's bell, that on any vessel is rung to mark the watches, the small heartbeat of a ship's day. And he unhooked it, and he held it a moment, and then he rang it. Once, soft, a single clear note out over the still and shining sea in the gray light of that morning. For all the men he had sailed with as a boy and lost in the fog and mourned for 30 years and never once been able to say goodbye to. One note. And the boy said it hung in the air over that flat water for the longest time, the way a sound will carry forever across a dead calm, going out and out across the doubled sky until it was too far and too faint to be a sound anymore, and was only a feeling, and then not even that. And that, friend, you may have guessed it by now. That is the very bell that hangs above my door, the one that gave you its small hello tonight when you came in out of the rain. But I am ahead of myself again. Let me bring them home first. Let me put a log on the fire and bring them home. There. The fire is glad of that log. Listen to it settle. Where were we? Yes. The bell had been rung, and the log was under the bosun's arm, and they rowed back across the still mirror to the kestrel in the full light of morning. And no one said very much, because some mornings are too full for talking. And that was the 9th day, the 9th of the quiet days. And the boy said he has thought about the timing of it every day of his life since, and he never could decide whether it was only chance or whether the sea had known. Because that very night, the night after they found her, the night after the bell was rung and the names were carried home safe under a sailor's arm, that very night, the wind came back. It came so soft that the boy, lying on the deck in his usual place among the stars, felt it before he understood it. A coolness on the one cheek that had not been there. A single lock of his hair lifting and lying down again. And then, high above him, a sound he had not heard in 9 days. The smallest stir of canvas. The sails shifting in their gaskets. One soft flap, like a great bird settling its wing. And then a ripple. He heard it before he could see it, the first ripple in 9 days, running along the hull with a small living whisper, the sound of a sea remembering how to move. The men came up quiet in the dark. No one shouted. It did not feel like a thing to shout about. It felt like being in a room where someone you love has been sleeping a long while and has just softly woken. They set the sails without a word, the great pale sheets coming down and filling slow, and the kestrel leaned the smallest bit, the way she had not leaned in all those days, and began gently, gently to move. And the boy stood at the rail and felt the ship come alive again under his feet, the deck taking on that faint tremble that means way through the water, and he watched the black mirror behind them break at last into an ordinary running sea, silver in the moonlight, and he found that he was weeping, and he could not have told you why, and he was not ashamed of it. He was 16, and he had been given something out there that he did not have the size yet to hold, and the tears were just the overflow of it. The boatswain came and stood beside him, the log safe below in his sea chest, and the two of them said nothing, and watched the Aurelia grow small behind them in the moonlight, still and dark and at peace, keeping her patient watch on the flat water for whoever the sea might send to her next. The homecoming was slow and easy. That is all there is to tell of it, and that is as it should be, for the best homecomings have no story in them. The wind held fair and gentle, the days warmed, the water barrels lasted. They raised the green line of their own coast on a soft afternoon, and the church tower that the boy had once hidden behind his thumb grew again from a thing you could hide to a thing you could stand beneath. And then they were in among the small boats of the harbor, and the smell of the land came out to meet them, earth and smoke and cut hay, a smell a man forgets he is starving for until it is in his chest again. And the boatswain took the log of the Aurelia ashore, and he did the long, slow work of it in the weeks that came after, finding the families, the old ones and the grown children of men lost 30 years before, and sitting in their kitchens and telling them at last what had become of their people, that they had not simply vanished, that they had been found, kept whole, sleeping on a quiet sea, and remembered, and their bell rung for them. And the boy went with him to some of those kitchens, and he watched old grief that had never been allowed to finish. He watched people weep and then, strangely, laugh. He watched the road-watching stop, and he came to understand that the whole of that voyage, the calm, the 9 days, the finding, had perhaps been for this, so that some names could come home. The boy sailed 40 years after that. He became, in time, an old boatswain himself, calm on a calm sea, teaching young things to rest when the sea rests. And when at last the old boatswain who had sailed the Aurelia came to the end of his own long life, ashore, in a bed, he gave the boy, no longer a boy, the little brass bell. He said, "You were there. You heard her rung. You keep her now, and give her someday to somewhere warm." And that is what the old sailor was doing all those years later on a rainy night when he found his way to my door. Three nights he sat in that chair, the gray old sailor, in the very chair the warmth of you is in now. And on the third night, when the tale was all told and the fire was low, he reached into his coat and he took out the little brass bell of the Aurelia, and he set it on the bar there, between us, in the lamplight. And he said to me, "I have carried her 40 years, and I am tired, and I have no one to give her to. But you have built a warm place with a door that opens, and people come in out of the weather. She should hang somewhere like that, somewhere warm, where doors open, and every soul who comes through hears her, and is, for the one moment of her ringing, remembered. Will you take her?" And I said I would, and in the morning he was gone on down the road, the way they always go, and I never saw him again. But I climbed up on a stool that same day, and I hung the little brass bell of the Aurelia above my door, where she has hung ever since. So now you know. You heard her yourself tonight, friend, when you came in out of the rain. That small, clear hello above your head, that was her. 40 years of open sea and 30 years of sleeping on a still, bright ocean, and all those names carried home, all of it hanging quiet over my door, ringing once for every traveler the storm sends me. She rang for you tonight. She was glad you came. And now the fire is low, and your cup is empty, and the rain has settled in for the whole of the night, patient and kind on the roof. There is nowhere you need to be. There is nothing you need to do. The door is barred, and the bell is quiet above it, and the sea is a long way off, and it is sleeping the way the boy once watched it sleep. Let your eyes stay closed now. Let the chair hold you the way the harbor holds the boat. I will sit up a while yet and tend the fire, and you need not stay awake to keep me company. Sleep, traveler. You are remembered here. You have a place by this fire always, whenever the night is cold. Good night. Good night. The rain will carry you the rest of the way down.